regulars and welcome new listeners to the Reese on the Regular podcast. Today I am back with Kailan on here.
I'm Kailan. I'm from Woburn. I go to UMass Amherst, and my majors are psychology and criminal justice.
I am bringing Kailan on today because we're going to talk about mental health. I feel like this will be a very beneficial topic for everyone. I did want to start by asking a little bit more about your background in mental health when it comes to your major and just any experience you have in that.
I just wanted to get into psychology since I was younger. I started an internship last year at the New England Center for Children. I helped children on the spectrum with autism. I helped them through mental health. I gave them therapy sessions, and I also taught them cognitive skills. So that was really insightful to psychology, and it helped me figure out what I wanted to do. And then I recently just started interning at the Billerica House of Correction. I'm under a supervisor who's a case manager, so I'm helping inmates re-enter into the population once their sentences are done. So that has a lot to do with psychology because I have to kind of counsel them about where they're staying, if they're going to stay with their family. I help them with addiction problems.
So a lot of crazy experience that I've never had. But how are you liking it?
I really like it because it makes me feel like I'm making a difference with especially people they have so much going on in their life, obviously, where they end up in prison, or even in my other case, in my other internship, where they end up in a home because they can't live on their own. That's such hard mentally on you.
Yeah.
And it makes me feel like I'm helping people.
Right. It's definitely a more rewarding job than most.
Yeah.
I know we both used to work in prom dress stores. So it wasn't very rewarding.
Amari prom.
That must be a really rewarding job to have, and also teach you a lot about mental health, just seeing it from their side, also kind of what you've been going through, just being there too, and how that affects your mental health. I guess I kind of want to just jump right into it. The first topic I wanted to start on was mental health in different environments. How do you think mental health plays into the work environment?
I feel first of all, it depends on what environment you're in. I feel I'm actually learning a lot. It's almost kind of humbling because I'm wow, I could have it way worse.
Right.
So it's definitely putting a lot of things into perspective for me, which is really good. It's helping me grow. I feel so rewarded at the end of the day, at least being able to maybe put a smile on someone's face when they're stuck in prison 24/7.
Yeah. And it's funny because I feel a lot of people would look at a job like that and be oh my God, that sounds crazy. I would never want to. But it's good that you kind of look at it as it makes you feel rewarded because you're helping people, but also grateful for what you have when you have to see stuff like that on a daily basis, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. But then again, there's other work environments, your work environment. I'm sure that's a totally different.
That's a totally different thing.
Yeah.
With my job, mental health is a whole different category. I kind of look at it as I have found something that gives me a really good work-life balance, and I feel that's something that not a lot of people get, and that plays into mental health a lot when it comes to working. Have you ever worked somewhere where you felt you didn't have a work-life balance?
Not to throw anywhere I've been employed under the bus, but there's definitely places where I've been so consumed with what I was doing that I let it kind of seep into my life outside of work, which definitely is not work-life balance.
Yeah.
But I feel you have it under control.
Everywhere that I've worked, I've been lucky enough to have a work-life balance offered to me and have that opportunity. My struggle is I am very much an overachiever, so I try to ruin that balance personally and working a little too hard. I think it's really important to recognize that your rest time is just as important. After work today, I was gonna go hit the gym or something before this podcast, and I was no, Reese, just you can go home and chill. You just worked 5 hours this morning. So it's really important to have that work-life balance, because as soon as you lose that, that really can affect your mental health. Not only having that balance wherever you're working, but in order to even maintain that mental health, you have to be in a healthy work environment to begin with.
I feel work environments where things kind of seep into your life outside of the time that you're getting paid to work, kind of like is a red flag for me for like, oh, maybe that's kind of unhealthy, 'cause maybe you're like too consumed with this job, or maybe others are putting too much pressure on you for this job, which is when you just kind of have to take a step back and maybe like talk to your supervisor or be like, I don't think all this responsibility should be on me. I don't know.
Right.
Especially 'cause we're young. Like
Exactly.
all these jobs like have been when I was like 18 to 20.
Exactly. Like being in college or high school or wherever you're at, like it's so important to remember that we're still so young, and then after this it's gonna be like the real world, the real working world.
Yeah.
So like not to overdo it too much at this time in your life, and even beyond that too, you know, like when you grow up you don't want to still not have a work-life balance, but especially now it's important. Do you feel that there's any like indicators that you could be somewhere and you know your mental health is being affected by work, whether that's like feeling stressed out or anxious?
Yeah. The people you work with or the people that surround you at work are also like a big part of, I feel like, work-life balance, 'cause maybe like there's a coworker that you don't like or something.
Right.
And that just like follows you outside of work, and like you're looking them up on like social media.
Is that what you're doing?
No.
Like just maybe
in the
or, like-
past where you're like, oh my gosh, like what's wrong with this person that they're so rude to me?
I think the actions that can come from things like that will tell you all you need to know. Like if
Yeah,
you really are
exactly.
like researching your coworkers in like a negative way, or just feeling stressed or anxious after work, overworked, overtired, like those are all signs that like something's not really going right. And like obviously it's okay to have days where you're overtired and stressed at work, but every single day is when it becomes a concern, and you got to just do what's best for your mental health sometimes. Going along the lines of people at work, I think this kind of ties into school too. School is definitely a place that can affect a lot of people's mental health, especially it being somewhere where you're still so young and, you know, maturing.
I feel like relationships at school is just like literally whoever you surround yourself with, especially at a school like we both go to UMass. Whoever you surround yourself with is who you're hanging out with. They're friends you're hanging out with. So if you like get involved with like someone that maybe is toxic or something, it's just gonna ruin your like.
It really does.
It's horrible. Like, I mean, you can't really blame yourself because a lot of people in college like don't even know what they're doing, or like they don't even know that they're being toxic to you.
Right.
But it's just like you have to be able to recognize that like I'm not myself, or like I'm depressed or something, and you have to take a step back and be like, oh, maybe it's the people that I'm surrounding myself with.
Yeah, and I feel like that's really hard because sometimes it gets to a point where you start to blame yourself because of like what that situation has caused you to think.
Yeah.
And so you really have to like look at the bigger picture and kind of just do what's best for you in those moments.
Something that I notice a lot with people in college is like you get so involved with your friend group that it's like you don't want to leave them because it's like you've been involved with them this like whole couple years of college, and then maybe something happens where you're like, oh, I don't want to be around these people anymore. It's like you can't really get yourself out of like a friend group and start fresh. Like
right, people get afraid to start fresh, and also just to like build up a new friend group from themselves because everyone's under the impression that like, oh, all these friend groups have already been made, and so that's that. But I mean, there's always still like I've met some of my closest friends like in my more recent years than like, you know, when I first started college. Everything really does change for the better, and you just kind of have to let it happen.
I mean, I feel like it's just like people figuring out like either themselves or like what they're interested in. Like I feel like
everyone's just figuring it out. Yeah, like that's all it is.
Just like I feel like no one knows what they're doing freshman year. So
no, how can you?
Sucks because I feel like a lot of people think that they can't get out of their freshman year like phase or group or whatever. Even like UMass, it's so big. Like
I know.
I can't imagine what people in small schools.
It is, yeah. There's a lot when it comes to school, I think, that takes a toll on people's mental health, and not even just like your friend groups and who you're surrounding yourself with, but just like the workload and what's required of you when you're at school.
Some majors are so hard. Like Caitlin, our friend Caitlin, she's an engineering major. I don't know how she does that.
Yeah.
Engineering, I would be failing. That would definitely make me like just stressed out all the time, and that would affect my mental health like horribly.
This is something that I feel like I've struggled with a lot, just like being too hard on myself when it comes to school, and it's super important. Like obviously you don't want to fail out, and like you want to give it your best, but that's legit all you can do is give it your best. And you really can't be too hard on yourself where you're not enjoying your time in college, because it flies by like that. Same with
Yeah.
high school, flies by. It's really important not to let that get to you.
Yeah, and another thing is like, again, I feel like a lot of people feel like they're stuck in something that they choose like earlier on in college. Like if it's a hard major or something, they don't want to drop it and start fresh because they feel like they're so far along with what they're doing. But it's like we're so young.
Yeah.
Like we have so much time.
So much time.
Like you said, you met your closest friends. Like not even
like literally in my past few like months of
yeah,
life.
it's like you can like start fresh. If it's better for your mental health, like you're not gonna like
right.
suffer.
And like to be completely honest, like right now I'm a finance major, but it's been really a tough major for me, something that's been tough for me to pick up, and it caused a lot of stress throughout college just because I had to take all these classes as requirements, and I just felt like I had to stick with this plan for myself. But now I'm kind of starting to see it as, hey, like, you know, I'll get this degree, but if it's not what I want to do, I don't need to be stuck in it.
Yeah,
and
we're so young. It's
like
we can
you
literally
have
do
so
anything.
much time to do a full change of your career as long as you're like still just staying motivated and like working hard. That's all that matters. It's a whole other issue if something's causing you mentally to not put in as much effort at school and to be lazy, and you know, that's things that factor in from outside of school too.
Yeah, family, where you're working, like
all of it.
everything is affected by everything. So
yeah, something that happens in your work environment can cause you to do poorly in your school environment. So it all really is correlated.
Yeah, and just something like you just really have to do is just take that step back and be like, what's bothering me here? You might think it's like your hard classes and like your finance major, but it could be like something else stressing you out that's like
right
spiraling. It's just all like a spiral. So big ol' spiral.
Even like your environment at home can totally affect how you are at school, how you are at work.
Everyone's raised differently, so it's kind of like comes to shock to a lot of people that like other people act differently.
Right.
And maybe that's 'cause they were brought up a certain way, but it like comes as such a big shock to some people that are like, they're like, oh, like, why aren't they acting like me? And
right.
that can cause a lot of stress. Like, if someone's acting totally different and you're not used to it, that might be their normal, and it might, like, stress you out. But you just have to ask them.
I know. I think you just need to, like, again, take the big picture into consideration. It's definitely something you have a lot of control over how you're acting, but I would say upbringing is a huge factor into how someone acts in general.
Yeah.
Just because you spend so much time at home, especially in your younger years, being raised. So that is something that is going to affect how you are as a person. And it really takes you individually, like learning how to mature out of that if it's some way that you were brought up in a negative way, but also just recognizing that in other people and not jumping so quickly to think that they aren't meaning well.
Everyone comes from different walks of life, so it just hold on.
Think about it.
Oh my gosh, that's such a good point. Everyone comes from different walks of life, so
okay. Everyone comes from different walks of life.
Everyone comes from different walks of life.
That's all.
So
That's really all.
that's all we have to really summarize this as.
I also think it should be up to you a little bit to recognize if you're not in the best home environment and just like really encouraging better communication with your family. I know that can be a really tough thing. Even still, I struggle sometimes to communicate with anyone because I'm the type that bottles up all my emotions and then one day I just explode. So that's something I've always been working on, but learning how to communicate with your family and your friends is just going to make it that much easier to, especially with family, live together and coexist all the time, but also just spending time with friends too and being on the same page.
Yeah. And like working with a lot of mentally ill like populations, a lot of the times they don't even realize that their home environment is toxic. And that's like so tough for me to be like, how are you not seeing this, you know?
It's crazy.
But it's just like some people think that's the way that they should be raised and they should raise their kids like that. And that's especially in like the prison system, that's like the cycle. It's like from the sandbox, they were raised by their parents in a certain way and they never realized that it was wrong. They just think that this is the way life is. And then they raise their kids like that. And then they end up in jail, and it's just like you can't break the cycle. I mean, you have to break the cycle.
You have to break the cycle. That's the whole thing. But like, how can they see it any differently? Being raised like that.
They do group sessions, like individual sessions. I feel like we really try to cater to everybody's different walks of life. within the prison. But also it's hard because there's all these different people colliding together in these groups that we have.
It's really a hard like concept to even talk about and try to give advice on, because it is hard to see other people's point of view in general, but you really have to try to. And it's not that the goal is to make everyone be the same person, because everyone is their own person, but the goal is really just to see from that person's point of view and like kind of understand better and just know who to surround yourself with based on that.
Yeah, I feel like the main goal that we talk about, the concluding point, is to just be gentle with yourself and just kind of like step back and look at how far you've come, maybe since you were like incarcerated.
You're talking on a more serious level, but like I use that every day and just like focusing on the small wins. That's like my big thing.
It's just
And the small wins could be that.
Maybe when I was younger, I didn't take care of myself as well as I do now. And so when I'm stressed out, I can take a step back and be like, wow, like I've come so far though. Like look at like we're doing our hair a certain way. Like we never like, it's just like even in prison, it's just like so silly. It's like you point out to them the smallest little things, like, oh, like you brushed your teeth today. Like that's crazy. You never would have done that like a week ago or something. It's just like the little wins, and then you keep building them up, and then you have to step back again and say like, wow, I did this, so like look what else I can accomplish.
On that topic, what are some self-care practices that you've gotten into over the years, like doing your hair and things like that, that have made you feel more mentally healthy?
Definitely like exercising. I've always been a big fan of like running. I've tried like a million different sports, but running is something that definitely stuck
Haven't
for
you
me.
like done or trained for a marathon?
Yeah, I did a half marathon in Italy.
Okay. Like no big deal. In Italy, I just ran a little half marathon.
It was fun. It was great training for it. Again, it's just like it was a big thing to me like a month ago or 2 months ago when I did it in Italy, but now I'm looking back and I'm like, wow, like all I had to do was like get up and get myself running every day.
Yeah.
That might sound like hard for other people, but again, it's just like everything's so different for everyone. I don't know.
No, it's really true.
Yeah. What about you?
Very similar stuff. I would say self-care. I'm always a skincare girly.
Me too.
A lot of creative outlets. One thing I've been so into right now is I'm making this whole big scrapbook from Italy, and it's like taking up all of my time, and I love it so much. But like every time I go back and do it, I'm just like, I want to start crying again. I'm like, wow, I can't believe I did all of this. But things like that just like bring you happiness are great. Like cooking is another creative outlet that for me, I know for some people.
I was just going to bring that up, cooking.
Yeah, for some people it's like not enjoyable, and like I totally get it. It is a lot, but for me it's so therapeutic. And for us, we love to cook together. Yes. So much
with
fun.
All of our allergies.
With all of our allergies in the world, we can make food together.
But that's a good thing.
No, yeah. See, find your people.
Find your people. I never would have known Reese had all these problems. Not these
problems. Really
these allergies and problems with her stomach.
Yes.
And she wouldn't have known that I did either.
We made a really good pesto one night. We'll drop the recipe. Unfortunately, I've never been a runner. I've attempted a good run. Like I'll go for a run here and there, but me going for a run is like a run walk alternation kind of vibe.
That's okay.
It's just I just can't get there, but like I could. I'm not going to say can't. I could. I just haven't. And so that's something I'm working on. But for me, I personally just like working out in general, and not even, I've talked about this before, not even for like the looks or, you know, whatnot, but really for the mind. It's been like so good for me just to go to the gym and like decompress. Like I've been going after work a lot because I simply need that time to just get my brain like away from everything else it just was focused on, and like just focus on myself. And so that's another thing that's really good for me too.
I feel like I love going to not to the gym. I never really go to the gym.
So we're like opposite on that.
Yeah.
I'm like, Kailan, come to the gym with me.
Yeah,
like,
I'm
suddenly busy.
I'm suddenly really busy.
I forgot I had all these plans.
All right, answer you like 8 hours later. I'm like, ugh, sorry, I fell asleep or something. No. Something that I wanted to add was, I'm a big runner, but I literally can't get myself into a gym to save my life. And it's like, if that's going to stress you out, or not the gym, because the gym really doesn't stress me out.
Right.
I just can't get myself there. But I feel like even when we were younger, like sports were a big thing. Like if you didn't want to go to that gymnastics practice, like I would feel it so hard. Like I would be so anxious and I wouldn't want to go and I wouldn't want to go. And then like, I don't know, I feel like you just have to find what you like.
Yeah.
Because you can't force yourself to work out and say it's good for you when it's
Right.
actually just stressing you out.
Exactly. No, when I hear people like say they really hate going to the gym, but they just
Exactly.
go anyways, I'm like,
Yeah.
you'll just find
Just
something
find
else
something
that's like an equivalent for you. You know, you're still
Mhm.
getting your exercise, but that you like.
Yeah.
I don't know, get a jump rope or something, like something
Exactly.
fun.
Explore what you like. Like, if you don't like something, then just do something else, you
Right.
know? And I feel like, again, people are so stuck in, like, their old habits. Like,
Yeah.
just
And a lot of it is kind of like just the expectation of like,
Mhm.
oh, you need to go to the gym. But
like,
like
do Pilates. or
there are
something.
other options.
Yeah.
There really are.
Go for an after-dinner walk.
Yes.
After-dinner walks are
I
good.
love the after dinner walks ever since Italy.
I just got the arm weights, the
Fit-
ball of
oh.
ankles.
Ooh.
They're like
Do you
ankle weights,
recommend?
but for your wrists. I never work out my upper body, but I found an alternative, and now I go on runs with my
See?
with my weights on my wrist.
And you
so
love it.
I love it.
You're not dreading it when you go and do
No.
it.
But do I dread going to the gym?
Yes. So she doesn't go.
Exactly.
So I will
So
stop inviting you.
No. I like going to the gym with you, but
I
like I
know.
can't go to the gym with you every single time and follow you around like a puppy.
So what advice would you give to listeners who are really struggling to find coping mechanisms that work for them?
I would just start with something small, run yourself like through a normal day, and just like pick up on little things that maybe you were like, oh, that was fun. When you were just like grabbing something for lunch and like you wanted to kind of make something else, or if you were reading your book, I don't know, like anything that kind of like sparks like a little like, that was kind of fun. Like just like keep exploring
yeah.
it, you know?
It can be something so simple like that.
Yeah, so simple. Like maybe like you were just throwing your hair up to like get to like your waitressing shift or something, and you were like, wow, I wish I could spend more time in my hair. Like, then spend more time on your hair.
Yeah.
Find something that makes you happy. It's hard to like find something though.
It is.
Like,
and I think
when
because
you're
it's
so
like
desperate to
Yeah.
find something. It's
well,
like,
I feel like for everyone it's so different. I mean,
Mhm.
like we have some things that are similar. Like we both like
Yeah.
to cook, that makes us happy, but everyone has their different things. So I feel like
Yeah.
that gets tough when you see other people doing things and you're confused as to why it's not making you happy.
Mhm.
It's just because you have to find what works for you.
Yeah.
And that takes time and patience.
And sometimes like all you really need is just to like do nothing.
Mhm.
Like that's
Right?
also something I have to teach myself. Like we can like relax.
I'm
like
the worst at
I
it.
can sit in bed on my phone.
It's
Like, I
so
can do
funny
that.
because like
Yeah.
my last week in Italy, I was like really
Mhm.
tired at that point. Of course, I was like upset, but I was like, when I get home, I am gonna lay in bed for an entire week. I'm not leaving
Yeah.
my bed. Like
Same.
that's what I said. I think I spent like an hour in my bed,
Yeah.
and now I was like, all right, what are we doing now? Because
Mhm.
I am the worst at like settling down and like appreciating downtime.
Yeah.
And of course, like don't do it to an extent, but when you have that time to rest and you like know you need it,
Yeah.
take advantage of it for yourself and don't feel bad about it.
And I feel like a big thing is like you're trying to please yourself or you're trying to please others by like having your schedule packed with things, or even when you're in a situation where you're like, I don't know what makes me happy, like, and you're going, trying to figure out like something to help you. Maybe you just need to like take a step back again and just relax. Like
Mhm.
that's what I do a lot. Whenever I get overwhelmed, like I definitely just like distance myself. Distance can be a bad thing. But
Yeah. We'll talk about the bad things, the not to do's.
Yeah. But sometimes it's good. I like distance personally.
Do you have a show that like you put on when you're trying to just like relax and get yourself in better spirits?
The Walking Dead.
Oh.
I love that show. In order for me to like relax and stay like focused on the TV, I need something like scary. Like
Yeah.
I can't sit down and watch like New Girl.
No.
Like I'll get so bored and I'll go on my phone or I'll just like be thinking. Like I need to be watching something like scary.
What about like Cruel Summer?
Cruel Summer was kind of scary though.
It was a little scary. We tried to watch this show, Cruel Summer.
Probably.
It was
for,
a really
like,
good
3
show, but
months.
we just we didn't get around to watching the
We
whole
tried to
thing.
watch it.
We
a
really
lot.
tried.
That was like we tried to make it our comfort show.
We did. It's a good comfort show. I would recommend it. My favorite,
Yeah,
I actually haven't
it's
watched this in so long, but like a show I know is on Netflix right now that like just will make me in a better mood. Jane the
Mhm.
Virgin. Have you
I've
watched
never
that?
watched
It's
that.
just like a funny like it's just funny. It's
See,
just
I can't do
awesome.
funny shows.
No, but it's not even like it's not a comedy. It's just
No.
like it's just a
Drama?
good show. I don't really even know how. Yeah, it's like a drama. There's a little suspense in there.
I like suspense.
No, it's a good one.
What about Game of Thrones?
I've never watched
I
Game of
love
Thrones.
Game of Thrones. House
But
of
find your
Travel.
show. Make relaxing a good thing. So I mentioned we're going to talk about the not to do's. What are some unhealthy behaviors that you find either yourself or other people getting into during like stressful times that really take a toll on their mental health?
The big thing that I feel like people do is projecting. Projecting is basically just like if you're upset, you're kind of just like, and say you're doing nothing to bother me, like you're just living your life and you're like perfectly normal. I'm like trying to make you upset almost. Like I'm like trying to make you upset. And then once you're upset, I'm just gonna like go at it with you, like for no reason, just because I'm in a bad mood. I'm gonna put you in a bad mood, and then it's gonna ruin everybody's mood, like,
which is super unfair. It is something that's tough though. Like I'll admit I've probably done it before.
Me too.
Just like when you're in a bad mood, nothing else matters to you other than the fact that you're stuck in this bad mood, and it's something that's really hard to get out of. But it really can affect your relationships. It can ruin relationships if someone, you know, takes it in a bad way.
Yeah. If you were in a horrible mood and I was like so happy, you know how sometimes when you're in a bad mood and you're like, why is that so cringe? Like, why are you like, why are you so happy? Like, oh, like I do that a lot. I find myself doing that.
But
a lot.
like they're just being a happy person. They're just in a good mood. Don't make them feel bad.
Exactly. Don't do that. Don't project.
Don't
but
project.
I feel like I see so many people projecting, but that's when you have to, this is like my favorite piece of advice. Like, don't take anything personally, because like everything people do is because of themselves. It's not because of you.
It's so true.
Exactly. Like that example I just said, like you could be minding your business and like just having a great time, and I could yell at you or something because I'm mad, and then you're like, oh my gosh, like what's wrong with me?
Right.
Like, you know,
yeah, the whole like self-blaming when you didn't even do anything.
Yeah, and you just have to remember, like I use this every single day. I think I have it like written on my wall actually. Like it's just like everything people do is because of themselves. Like don't take anything personally.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
My motto is always going to be everything happens for a reason. But
okay, we're sharing our
like
mottos.
those are our mottos if you guys were wondering. Something I live by, but no, that's another good one, is just like it's not a big deal. It's not that serious. I used to be like very serious about everything and like overthink things, and now I'm just like, you know what? Like why?
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. The next
Another
day's
thing,
coming.
Yeah. Anyone that's religious, like let go and let God. That's a big one.
Yeah.
I hear a lot of people saying that at my internship a lot.
Really?
Yeah, 'cause faith is like a big thing in prisons now. It's like something for them to hold on to.
Yeah. Kind of like opposite of that point, I would say something to avoid is people pleasing. Like you don't want to be projecting and like making people feel bad. You also don't want to be people pleasing when it's not necessary at all times. I feel like that's something a lot of people will do when they're so afraid of other people's approval, and then that can really affect their mental health.
Well, when you people please, I feel like it does more harm to you than it does good for someone else, because people can recognize when you're people pleasing. Like it's so, it might not seem obvious to you, but like I feel like I used to people please a lot, and like now I can point out someone that's people pleasing like so fast. Even myself, it always did me way more harm than it did. Like it never helped me. It's like putting yourself down.
It is.
Kind of.
I think that's something that I thankfully have never really struggled with too much. I feel like a lot of people don't really see the difference in people pleasing versus just being selfless. Like it's great to be selfless and like do acts of kindness for others, and you know, not always be thinking about yourself, of course, but when you're people pleasing and not focused on yourself at all, that's where it goes bad.
And that's where like I feel like I can kind of tell if someone's people pleasing or not, because you're just looking at them like, do you have any respect for yourself right now? Like don't you want to like maybe take a rest and not work for like 12 hours straight right now? I don't know, that's just an example, but it's almost like you're kind of like self-harming in a way. Like you're just like beating yourself to the ground, you know, like trying to impress people. And that goes back to like confidence in yourself. Like usually people with low confidence will be people pleasers, and narcissists usually like kind of prey on people that are people pleasers.
Confidence is a big thing in mental health for sure. Low self-esteem, low confidence can really drag you down, and you also don't want to be overly confident.
Exactly. There's two ends of it.
It's a hard balance for sure.
Yeah.
But it's really important to find something that keeps you confident in yourself, and just like not looks wise necessarily, but like confident in like what you can do and like what you can achieve.
Yeah. I mean, like again, it's like with people that tend to people please, it's not easy, but you can kind of tell when someone's narcissistic compared to them being confident.
Yeah.
There's
big
just like little
difference.
traits, like people that like going this all the time, like moving their hair, you know.
Yeah, those people.
People that like strut when they walk. And
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's like a difference in like having like a power to yourself
People that
versus,
are
like, that.
narcissistic, they get off on putting people down. They're like, their confidence skyrockets when they put people down, and they love it. And that is just so unhealthy for both parties, especially if it's between a narcissist and a people pleaser.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of people get into abusive relationships like that too. So
Oh yeah.
even friendships or relationships.
I've seen it. I have seen it. I'm not gonna name names, but you are speaking some truth there. Seriously, I think that the biggest differentiator in order to like tell if someone is being narcissistic, being confident, is really just like the vibe they give off. Like you could be either giving off like an awesome, like confident, like
selfless vibe, yes,
or an overly confident vibe. And so you want to stay balanced with that for sure.
Yeah. If you're in a position where you're trying to make new friends, like even freshman year of college, like when you're not really able to find yourself, or even when you're vulnerable yourself, like you really have to be careful about who you surround yourself with, because that can lead you down like a whole spiral like in itself. Like
Yes.
just getting onto the wrong path with the wrong people. So always stay super aware of the people that you surround yourself with.
I think surrounding yourself with people is another important thing when it comes to confidence, because there are also some people who are going to cause you to compare. And that's another thing that we're going to talk about avoiding, is comparing yourself. You don't want to be surrounding yourself with friends that make you want to have to compare yourself to them in a negative way. And I've talked about this before on my episode about friendships and relationships, but just to reiterate that, don't compare yourself to your friends.
Yeah, don't.
Focus on yourself.
It's just like, that's how you make like really good like lifelong friends, or like me and Reese.
Like us.
I feel like we kind of like bounce off of each other's like energy. Like
It's
we're
the
never
energy.
like, oh my gosh, like I wish I had a podcast. Like instead I'm on the podcast.
Instead she's just on it. Like,
just
and
like,
just embrace it.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's a big like dynamic between people that like friends that like work well together. It's just like there can't be any like jealousy or anything between you. I mean, of course, like people have thoughts like that sometimes. It's not like a crime to have like a jealous thought, but it's just like overall how you like work with yourself.
Yeah,
like,
don't let it
other.
take over like your behavior overall.
Like at the end of the day, it's just like whoever makes you happy when you surround yourself by them.
Yeah. Like after every sentence, like Kailan, like Reese,
and Kailan. Self-isolating can be kind of tricky because you always want to find that balance where you're taking time for yourself. You want to find that balance between like being able to stay home for a night. Like if you're tired and all your friends are going out, like, and you'd rather stay in, that's okay. Like you're respecting yourself and you're like taking care of yourself in that way. But sometimes it can get to a point where you're self-isolating too much, and that can be like extremely toxic because you're pushing away people that care about you, especially if you're pushing away people that care about you, like people that are reaching out, asking you to hang out. That can destroy relationships. So
yeah. And I feel like a lot of people take the advice of like, oh, surround yourself with the right people, and they cut a lot of people out of their life. And they also take the advice of like, oh, it's okay to be alone and like have your independence. And then it comes to a point where they're literally self-isolating, like not meaning to. So you never want to do it to an extent like that. And you definitely don't want to cut out relationships that are important ones just because you're in like a time of bad mental health, because like you don't know if you're going to get that relationship back or to the same capacity that I was at. And it's unfair to yourself and to the other person.
Yeah. And like another thing that goes hand in hand with is like overexerting yourself. Like if you're working all day, like we're humans, like we need like to talk to people.
Yeah.
Like we can't be like robots, or like we can't like girl boss too hard or anything.
You can't.
Like, 'cause then you're going to self-isolate yourself. Like if you're overworking yourself and you're like trying to do all the right things, like it could be totally unintentional. Like you could be working all the time, like just trying to make money, like going to the gym, trying to better yourself, but then a week goes by and you haven't seen anyone, and you're like,
and like once you achieve all of that stuff, you're like, okay, well I just lost a ton of other really more important things in my life.
Yeah. And that's another thing, like balance. Like you just like, it's hard, but you just like have to find a balance.
Balance is like the hardest thing in all categories of life, but with mental health, that is like the solution is balance in so many different topics. So I feel like that's why people struggle so much with mental health, because
Yeah.
it's hard to keep a perfect balance with anything.
Just to go back to like our friendship, like I feel like I'm a person that takes a lot of time for myself. And we were talking about like how do you know like kind of when you found like the right people to surround yourself with, and it's like if you can respect me and be like, "Oh wow, like she's taking time for herself or like maybe she can't hang out this day." Like that's like what people should be looking for in friendships, not like people that get mad like when you can't hang out every single day. And that's why I feel like even now, like I feel like I surround myself with people that are comfortable with themselves and they won't project onto me if I have to cancel because I'm not feeling well or something. Like it's just, it all comes down to how you feel about yourself.
It does.
Like if you're like insecure in yourself, you're going to be like, why is she canceling on me? You know, like
100%.
So
yeah.
I don't know. It's just like a huge spiral.
It
Mental
is
health
a
is
huge
such
spiral,
a huge spiral.
like-
and everything is connected. Like even just talking about it out loud, I'm like, oh, this relates to like
Yeah.
a million other
I know.
things.
Like
we've
we
been
could
talking
draw
about.
out this whole big like map
Yeah.
and connect everything
Yeah,
together.
everything would be connected.
And it would be really confusing because it is, but it's like a simple concept, but it's a difficult concept. And
Yeah.
you just really have to know what's right for you.
It's just like as you get older, I feel like you're bound to realize what you don't like at least. If you can find out like what you don't like, that's something too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to find
You
what you
start
do
from
like,
there.
but cutting
Yeah.
out the things you don't like
Is a good first
it's
step.
a good start. So do you have an example of a time that you used to do any of those not to do's that we just listed and kind of how you got yourself out of that?
I feel like I was a big people pleaser when I was younger, and I don't know if that stemmed from like, I mean, that can stem from anything, just like the way you were brought up. Like maybe I saw like my parent or maybe like even my sister or something. You learn from people that are older than you. It's always just like something can trigger being like a people pleaser. And I feel like I really noticed it in high school. Matt Nunn. But I feel like I really realized my behavior like at the end of middle school, beginning of high school. Or I guess I didn't realize it then, but that's definitely when it started. I don't really know what caused it. I'm still trying to figure that out actually. I would like constantly like climb over mountains for people, you know? And like honestly like wouldn't get anything out of it. Like I would just probably just
you don't. That's the thing with people pleasing. You don't get anything out of it.
Exactly. It's definitely a form of like you're self-harming yourself, like putting yourself out there like every second trying to make all these connections. I feel like I had so many like really surface level friends in high school. I feel like that was the thing with like private school. You never really got like super close to people that like were from your hometown.
No.
At least that was in my case. So I felt like I had so many like superficial friendships. And so I felt like I was always trying to like keep those up. And while I was doing that, like I think I was just like drying myself out and like spreading myself like so far. I realized that like honestly, I probably realized that like sophomore year of college. So all that time I was like just horrible to myself, honestly. They always say like psychology majors are psychology majors because they want to figure out what's wrong with them.
Do you agree with that?
Yes. Every single person that, not like categorizing psychology majors, but everyone that I've talked to that like is a psychology major like has something like they want to figure out.
Right.
I don't know. Like I just want to like figure out like why people act the way they do.
Yeah.
You know? Some people would rather just ignore that, but I want to get to the root of it.
I want to get to the bottom.
It was hard for me to like realize like my behavior and stuff. I think I finally realized it like when I finally just like took a step back. I think it was like the summer going to junior year. I kind of just like was like, what am I doing? Like I think I kind of just, I would never let myself rest. I would always be doing something. Like I never gave myself any time to breathe or think and I feel like once I took that step back, I was like, oh my gosh, like what am I doing?
Like, look at you.
Yeah, like why am I doing all this stuff? Like I don't know, I would just like never have any time to myself. Like if I had one time to myself, I couldn't like sit with my thoughts.
Yeah.
So I would go like work out or like go do something like
distract yourself from the problem.
Yeah, that's a big thing, like distracting yourself. You have to just like come to terms with it eventually. So you might as well do it sooner than later, you know.
What do you think was like the outcome of that? And how like were you able to recognize that you finally like, healed from the whole people pleasing thing?
I feel like a big thing was starting to surround myself with people that didn't encourage that behavior. I feel like even in friendships, like I was in a lot of those like kind of like a narcissistic person, like kind of just like I was just like trying to please them, like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, let's do this, even though that's the last thing I want to do.
Right.
I would still do it in hopes that they would like me or like want to be my friend.
Right.
Or
It's like
something.
you
It's
talk
so
about it now and it
sad.
sounds like so crazy. It's
It
like,
sounds
what?
crazy. Like there would be something that I would rather not, like it would be like the last thing that I ever would want to do. I don't know. And I'd be like, okay, fine, if it makes you happy, like I'll do it. Just even like simple things like going out, like when I just did not want to, like, and it was just causing me more harm, like making myself tired, like wearing myself down just to make this person happy for 5 hours.
And
go
yeah, I
out
feel like
with
half
them.
the time they're not even giving you the reaction that you
Yeah,
wanted after all of it.
exactly.
Like they're like,
Yeah.
oh, cool, you're here.
Exactly.
You're like, yeah, it took me a lot to be here.
Yeah. This is another big thing. I feel like the person that I really like am, or who I am now, like I love like my sorority, like I love like being like a girly girl. Like I feel like when I was younger I put up such a wall. Like I wanted to like be super active, which I still like, but like I hated like pink and like I like wanted to like dress like alternative. Like oh my god.
You're just changed a
Oh my
bit.
God,
Like
but
everyone changes.
That's the thing, healing your inner child. You have to do that. It's just like you have to be gentle with yourself. Like when I was younger, I wanted to be in a sorority, and when I was younger, like I wanted to be able to dress like a girly girl and get my nails done and get my hair done. And when I was older, like I was just like, ugh, like that will make me like seem not like weak, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I want to like put up a front that I'm like like this strong person, but it's like I can be strong and still get my nails done.
Yeah, and still be a sorority,
You know?
and still wear pink.
Exactly. And that is literally the best thing. Like that saved my life. Oh my god, it's so sad. But just like finding like the little girl inside of you that like, you know, she wanted to do that. I wanted to do that when I was younger. So like why should I keep myself from that, you know?
Yeah.
And as soon as I did it, I was like, what have I been doing the past 5 years?
Yeah.
Like
It seems so silly when you look back on things like that.
Like I feel like I'm a different person. I don't know. I don't
Oh
know.
my God.
Like, yeah.
I feel like every year of my life I'm a whole different person,
Yeah.
to be honest.
Exactly.
But I feel like it's always getting better, which is good.
Yeah.
Let's hope
Because you're like moving in the right direction. It's not like you're like hard on yourself.
Another indicator for sure.
Too hard on yourself and like moving backwards. You
Right.
know?
And yeah, it's not always going to be a forward process. That's another important thing too. Like are still days where I feel like, oh, I moved a little backwards today. But as long as you're taking those, 2 steps forward, maybe 1 step back, like just any little progress is like what you gotta have to really focus on.
I feel like I bring that up a lot, like at my internship in Billerica, and I'm always pointing out to these like people that have gone through these horrible things, and I'm like, well, look, you did your hair, like it looks so beautiful. Like some of them like do their hair so like they braid it in like these crazy styles, and I'm like, do you like how that makes you look? And they're like, yeah, like I haven't done this in a while. And I'm like, my gosh, you're like being gentle with yourself, and you're looking in the mirror, and you're doing your hair and like spending time with yourself, and it's like that's just the first step.
I know, it's the little things like that, and not a lot of people can have that perspective.
Yeah,
so props to you.
Thank you.
Overall, I feel like the biggest way to tell that you have gotten past a habit like that or healed from a situation is just being able to talk about it. Like the way that you just like told that story like so easily and like can just share that with people just shows that you've healed from it, you've moved on, you've grown. Being able to see any of the people that might have been in a situation that was kind of hard for you in the past, and just feeling confident in the fact that you have healed is like the best way to know.
And like I mean that's why I want to get into psychology. Like it's just like it took me a while to get to this point, but now that I am like even just talking about things like this, and maybe I'm like helping someone, maybe
oh
just
my God,
one
yes.
person, but even just by like I don't know, like just like healing yourself, like you can literally start even trying to heal like so many other people, and it's like such a good feeling. And,
oh my
like,
God,
I feel like that feeling like stays with me for a while.
It's so true. It's my favorite thing to get on here and just like, I don't know who's listening necessarily, but I'm like, this could be helping one person.
Yeah,
and like that is awesome to know.
And as long as like you're feeling good about yourself, like, or even if you want to know if you've healed from something in the past, just like if you can talk about it and feel like, wow, like I'm so glad I'm talking about this and maybe I'm making a difference, that's a good sign.
That's how you know. And again, healing isn't linear. So don't think of, you know, one little setback as, oh, never mind, I was wrong, I didn't fully heal from this.
Exactly.
It's not going to be linear.
Yeah. Be gentle with yourself.
Be gentle with yourself.
That's also my motto.
A whole lot of mottos on here.
I just feel like mental health is the root
Mm-hmm.
of like literally every single problem that we have as a society.
It is.
So
So if you guys need
get
some
your mental health
coaching,
in check.
chat with Kailan a little bit more. I mean, I definitely know a lot from experience, but you have some crazy experiences just this summer and in general and in your studies that have taught you a lot.
Thank you.
But I had so much fun.
I know,
I'll
me
definitely
too.
have you back on here. Let us know what else you guys want us to talk about, 'cause we could talk about like
Mental
anything under the
health part
sun.
2.
We could do a mental health part 2, a little recap, see where we've come.
Oh yeah, a little check-in. in
Yeah,
like a
just like a
year.
little mental health
That's
check-in.
cute.
But I honestly had so much fun, so thank you
Me
so
too.
much.
Yeah.
Guys, continue listening in, giving suggestions. You know the deal. Keep watching if you're on YouTube, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye, guys.